This morning I posted a little data about femicide on my page for black women in this country. And I know a lot of times lately there were conversations about the differences in the culture, African American versus Caribbean versus African. And really at the end of the day, our data is merged together because we're all brown people and we're all black people, what they call us is black. We're all one group. Doesn't really matter about the cultural differences. We're lumped together. Where I'm getting at is femicide affects all of us, no matter our background. It's not only African American women that are going through this terrible, terrible thing. I don't even know what to call it. Because this guy I knew, he was a coworker. He was from the Caribbean. He brought a woman to this country. And he was like 20 something years older than her. He had children of his own. But for some reason, he wanted to have another child just with her. And she was about 40 years old. And she agreed with him. He brought her to America. And long story short, she decided she didn't want to have any more children. She told her friend on the phone, he overheard her talking to her friend one day, saying, "I'm not having any more children." So, and she was like pushing him away. Bottom line, during the pandemic, I'll just say, read between the lines what he did to her and her daughter and himself. I'm not going to state it plainly. You have to figure it out. I'm using the data on femicide as my context. And when I found out what he did, I was stunned. I stopped in my tracks. I processed this for months now. At first, I was sick. And over time, it just caused a part of me to freeze. He was a nice guy, friendly. Everyone liked him, agreeable. And he did this anyway. They told me, because I had stopped working at the place, we didn't work together anymore. So they told me he did this during the pandemic. I guess he found certain things out about her, let's just say. I don't really know if she was cheating on him, but I think he found out she didn't want him. I think at the very least, because that's what he told me. She really was pushing him away. But I guess it became evident because she couldn't go to work anymore and she couldn't hide the fact that she really didn't want him. And he didn't have to do that to her and her child and himself, but he did. And so for me, this topic is not an intellectual debate. It's not a man versus woman thing. It's not an African American concept, problem. It's a problem for everybody. And so I finally come to terms with it that, and so I'm posting this today, that if there's anything that we can do, if all we can do is pray, then we need to get on that. Because this is a serious problem. We're viewed as property. And because men have their egos tied to the relationship with a woman, it becomes an issue of their pride. It becomes an issue of disrespect. We don't tie our relationship to our ego. Society tells us if the man pays for you and buys you things, you're valuable to him. And so we tie our self-worth, some of us, to whether or not he pays for us and things like that. Not necessarily him cheating and being faithful and things like that. But men tie their self-worth to women, and it's unhealthy. And so when the woman cheats on him or, rejects him, he takes it very deeply because it's tied to his self-worth. We need to break that too, because if I decline a man's advances, it may have nothing to do with him and more about me. But they're not taught that. But again, I'll say this before I go. At the very least, If we can't do anything else, if you're not political, you can pray and ask God to heal this society, however you word it, because it's necessary.